Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It is great to have you here. I hope this message finds you well and finds you with a lot of inspiration because I made a new watercolor and I'm going to be showing you how to paint this gorgeous abstract flower. First, I'll swatch the watercolor for you and tell you a little bit about this stunning semi-staining color. It's bursting with so much life, and I think just in time for spring. It offers a rich, highly pigmented, flowy, dance across the paper kind of watercolor. It's mixed with honey in an organic binder, and it allows that really juicy, vibrant painting experience that you've come to know from Jack's Watercolor. It makes each wash or glaze glow with a lot of intensity because there are no fillers, there are no anything that would take away from the watercolor. In fact, all of my watercolor has, for extra vibrancy, triple the pigmentation. And I use very, very high grade, beautiful pigments. As I paint this abstract flower, I just want to embrace the fact that this stunning pink really does pair beautifully with these botanicals. I mixed it with a warm yellow, and I think the two create a really warm but full contrast, giving it so much energy. You don't really have to do a lot. This kind of watercolor that I make is a premium professional grade, and a little goes a long way. So a honey pot of this should last you quite a while. It is all hand mulled and takes quite a bit of time, so it is made in very small batches. So unfortunately, it does sell out quickly, but if it is special to you and you love it, then go to Jack's Watercolor and see all of the beautiful colors that I have made this week. I have new colors that come out every single week and especially every month for our watercolor subscription that I send to your door. So there's always some really fun surprises and lots of magical gifts in those packages. Be sure to sign up at jackswatercolor.com if you don't want to miss those shipments going out every single month. So the watercolor is Lush. It is honey based. I think you will absolutely love it if you haven't tried it. And let me just say, from the expectations of my wonderful watercolor students and the people who use it, I think I am onto something good because you guys have sent me so many wonderful letters about the watercolors and how vivid they are and how easy they are to paint with. I'm so glad that we've come to a formula that is something that you embrace and that you really enjoy. It's really special to me. I love to make it, and it's a formula that I've been using personally in my own artwork for a lot of years. But with anything, you can keep making it better. So if you have any suggestions for colors that I haven't made yet, or different things or textures that you'd like to see, please let me know. Now, this is part of a watercolor set that I made quite a long time ago. It was about a year and a half ago. I came out with a set called Mystic, and the Mystic had a lot of split watercolor in it, where as you added water, it had a lot of granulation and sometimes had little peaks and valleys of different colors. So this one is actually able to split into a very, very light pastel pink and into this really, really bright fuchsia. So depending on how much water, you will get different hues and tones out of it very, very easily. To make this flower, I'm doing a few different things. One, I took some watercolor and laid it on the barrel of my brush, that's right, on the metal edge, as well as on the actual bristles. This is a really great watercolor brush that I sell in my store. It's got the silver barrel, it's the bold, and it's really fun to work with because it holds quite a bit of water. It's somewhere in between squirrel hair and synthetic sable. It is a synthetic brush. It's not a natural hair, which I do try to carry in the store as often as possible. You can see just by adding water to the brush, it gets the color rolling, and it really is just so juicy. But you have to actually rinse out your brush just to get a light version of this watercolor. That's how highly pigmented it is. So when I say that a little goes a long way, it really does. The honey pots are a very, very big pot of watercolor, and I think that you'll find that the formula is just not like nothing else that you've ever tried, you know? So when you add water to it, it flows, but you still get that vibrancy and it doesn't really ever fade, right? Because it's professional watercolor. So you can do a lot more things when you're painting with it that you might not be able to do with other watercolors. So if you find that your pinks are like diluting out like crazy and you have to use so much of the paint, that's because they have a lot of fillers in them. So especially student grade paint. So you want to use professional grade paint, and you want to look for paints like this that have that high pigmentation. It really does matter, because without it, they will dry shift to a very, very light pink, or you won't get that really vivid fuchsia. Or if you do get a vivid fuchsia, it will fade over time. It will be something that it doesn't last. So it's really important to make sure that when you are painting with a pink or like these reds, that they not only stand the test of time, but they don't fade from the sun, they don't fade from the environment, that they will last just like the, highly pigmented quality artist grade watercolor. And even so, in artist grade watercolors, if it's like a pink lake or a red lake, it usually does fade. It's usually got some issues with it. But there are lots and lots of tests out there. If you're not using Jack's Watercolor and you want to look up a color that you have, there are lots of ways to Google tried and true test results of people who have painted swatches and put them out in the sun for like a year to see what actually does happen to it. But as far as that goes, my watercolor will not fade on you. It is a very, very good pigment, and it is sound and so lovely to paint with. So you can see how easy this was, right? I actually took a sunflower yellow. This is another color that I use quite often. It is available in the store right now. Mellow yellow is another one that's really, really good. So you could either use sunflower yellow or mellow yellow. Also, sunflower orange would be great in the center here with this flower. That's also a nice combination. You could even go a little bit more orange if you wanted to use something like orange sunset, or a poppy orange would be interesting. But I really love the yellow with it. I think it looks really cool, So I'm just dabbing a little bit in the center and allowing it to mix in some areas. I'm going to take some water here and I'm going to try and shift my paint around. Now, another benefit to using a vibrant paint is in the experience of glazing and adding waters to the wash. Usually when you add water to wash, you can kind of bring it out, right? You can get those different variations of color. So that's what I've used here. Even though it's one color with the pink, you can see I've added water to wash it into one of those lighter colors. And then where I have more pigment, it's got heavy granulation and a lot of vibrancy. That's going to stay just like that. It is not going to dry shift on you and, turn into something that you really didn't expect. But another thing that it will do, being that it's semi-staining, is you can still have that radiant contrast and warmth and energy in the flower while taking a brush and removing some color just to create some shifting lines in your flower. So you'll watch with my brush strokes as I'm going through, I'm actually dabbing at the center and dabbing around the center so that I can kind of create a little more texture. And then towards the end of this, I'm actually going to go through the petals with my brush, and that'll just be a clean brush with a little bit of water. And I'll be moving some of the watercolor around so that I can form the shape of one petal over another. And that will just give me a little bit more of a harder line so that it's not so abstract, so that you can see which petal is going to be lapped over the next petal. And that's something you can do really easily with a watercolor like this. And this is just a cotton sketchbook that it's not very expensive. I do sell them in the store. They have, I think, 55 pages. I really like it. I do a lot of swatching and studies of different things that I just want to sketch out for you guys. And I've actually sold the sketches from this watercolor book before, and people have really liked it and just never had a problem. So it's a great paper. I think they're just under $50 Canadian, which isn't bad. It's 230 grams paper, and it's about 5.5 by 5.5. But the big thing is the 230 GSM paper is a really beautiful quality sketchbook. It's hardback and it's got 44 pages. So I like it. I use it a lot. I really do. I think it takes the watercolor well, and it's not too much texture on the paper, so you can actually ink it. I'm using these as my sketchbook in the botanical watercolor journaling class that I have out right now, and we've been loading it up with brand new botanicals as we enter spring, which is so much fun, right? So I also took some clear water and I created some backwashes. Now this is a semi-staining color, so it's not going to entirely wash the color out, which is what I'm banking on here. You can also see in some areas where I've left it really, really soupy and wet. And in this next second, you're going to see it dry. And in the dry, it stayed just perfect. We did not get a huge dry shift, and that makes a huge difference, right? You'll also see some of the petals standing out from the others, and that's where I took a wet brush and I just kind of moved the watercolor around to create and shape out those petals. So I hope you enjoyed this watercolor tutorial and this little explanation about the new colors. Please go over to jackswatercolor.com and check out all of the new watercolors that I have. Some are available in pans under the honey watercolor section. But if you're looking for the handmade honey pot watercolors, that is a section on its own. And I do make metallics as well as some sets. So go check it out. I think you'll love it. And thank you so much for supporting my watercolor.